Hi guys, this is EBP Man with Tablets for Me, and today we're going to go through a significant number, well over 30 tips and tricks for the LG G4. This actually happens to be the first time that I make a consolidated list of tips as opposed to individual videos. So please give me feedback if you prefer this method. It does make the video much longer, but it's only one video with all of the tips and tricks that I've collected to date. So here's a quick way to actually see the date and time on your phone without turning it off. So all you do is you take your finger with the phone off and you swipe from the top down and you'll see the date and time. Now the next tip is you could flip the phone over and press the power button on the other side to turn on the phone, or you can just simply tap twice to turn on your phone. So the next tip is how do you turn off your phone quickly without having to press the button on the back. So I just showed you that 2 times will open up or turn on your phone. Well, 2 times also when the phone is on anywhere on the screen will turn it off. So let's say you have several apps, or you have an application open, or you have all the app tray programs open as you see here. The double tap in the middle won't make any sense because you'll start an application. But if you're all you have to do is go to the very top of the screen, double tap, and it'll turn off the phone as well. So how do you take a screenshot? Well, with the LG and most, it's actually something available with all phones, you have to press the power button and the volume button at the same time, which is a little, I would say, interesting because it being in the back, we're all used to it being in the front and pressing, either the power button on the side and then, the volume button on the other side. But what you could do is rather simply, if you put your fingers right here, you see how I have it? Power and the volume are being pressed at the same time. What will happen is I can do a screenshot. So let's do that. There's my screenshot. So it was that easy. Now something else that you can do is once you have your screenshot, because most of us take the screenshot because let's say for example you're going to share the weather, or you're just going to share something that's going on that you see on the phone. So you'll notice that the share function is right here, right under that notification. So you can choose share and then immediately send it to Facebook, send it to Snapchat, send it to whatever system you want to send it to. One of the neat things about Android is really it allows you to personalize your phone to suit pretty much the way you like to operate. So what we're going to do is personalize the swipe effect. And the swipe effect is what you see when you go from screen to screen. Let me show you how you do that. I'm going to swipe single finger down. We're going to go into settings. We're going to then go into display. We're going to choose home screen. And once you go into home screen, you notice that you have a screen swipe effect. You have multiple choices. You can choose breeze, and you'll see what the breeze experiences. Accordion, it shows you what the accordion is. Panorama, carousel, layer, domino. So you can choose whichever one you like to make this phone more personal, more like you. Another feature that you can personalize is how you navigate from screen to screen. For example, if you swipe over to the, as I'm doing, as I'm moving over in this direction, you'll notice that the dots here on the bottom move with me. But one of the things that it doesn't do is that if I want to go back to the first screen, it doesn't carousel, doesn't go or loop all the way back. You can actually change that, and we're going to do that by simply coming up to the top, going into settings. I'm going to go in display again. You're going to choose home screen, and this what you're going to do is check allow home screen to loop. So I'm going to choose that, and now watch the difference. When I swipe, it goes in a rotation. In other words, it goes back to the home position without having me to go back. I kind of personalize this kind of, or this is my preference when it comes to navigation. I just don't like getting stopped and then not being able to go back. So that's how you change it so that it loops. So in this next step, I'm going to show you how to personalize your phone, and I think this is really convenient depending on if you're righty or lefty. So these home buttons on the bottom, you may want them in a different order depending on if you're a right-handed or left-handed person. This is one thing that you do. So I'm going to go to the top and go into settings. I'm then going to choose display, and notice how you have a setting here that is home touch buttons. What you can do is there's some things where you can actually change the color. That's something that you can do. Not that exciting because you just go from those two different colors. But what you can also do here is if you go to this screen is you can actually work with the button combination. So what you can do is you can bring buttons in here, or what you can do is you can actually modify the order of these buttons. So notice as I move the top, the bottom changed as well. So if you are someone who is a lefty and prefer to have this button all the way over here, you can do that, or you can have it all the way over here. Now in addition to that, you could also hide the home buttons. I like doing this, especially when I'm playing games where you could choose to have the buttons actually hide. And it really shows you that once you choose that hide function, all you do is you swipe from the bottom up to get the buttons to appear. So again, you're playing a game, you don't want those in place, you don't want to inadvertently hit those buttons. All you do is you enable this function, and then you'll swipe up like it's illustrated here to see the buttons back. Now with this tip, I'm going to show you how do you personalize toggles or quick settings. We go to the top and you notice you have these options here on the screen, and they may not be in the order that you may prefer. So what you could do is if you swipe over, you notice there's many here. You notice one of my favorite is the flashlight, because everybody uses their phone as a flashlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit, and you notice once you go into edit, you have these are the ones that appear you know blah, 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 blah. So now in this tip, what I'm going to show you how to do is how do you personalize the actual quick settings or toggles that you have here in the top. Now you have a few of them that appear once you pull down the menu, as I did, but as you continue to move over, you'll notice that some of these toggles are probably more important than others. For example, the flashlight one, which everyone uses, you may not want to swipe over as much as I did. So let me show you how you edit that. As soon as you choose edit, you're going to see all these toggles or smart settings that you can have up there. What you can then do is enable or disable some, or in my case I'm going to move one around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flashlight and I'm going to move it by going over here. I want to move it further to the top because I use the flashlight often, and I'm probably going to put it in front of the actual quick memo. Now when I go back, one of the things that you'll notice if I go to the very beginning, my flashlight is there, so I can easily just access the flashlight to turn on the light and turn it off. So that's how you access all of your smart settings, or quick settings as some people call them, and also they're also known as toggles, by editing and modifying as I just did. Now another setting I really like about that I use often in the quick settings is going to be the smart remote. So I'm going to go into edit. This is another one I suggest you take a look at, and you enable quick remote, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it to the top. So I'm going to put it all the way to the top and put it right next to my flashlight. And now when I go back, you'll notice that you have your quick remote settings. Let's go all the way over here. I have that actually enabled. I'm going to turn it off. So when you want to use your phone as a remote, all you do is you tap here, and then those functions will automatically show up. Again, the power, the volume, some of the things that you normally use when you're watching TV. So that's another quick tip or a shortcut that I like having on my phone. So here's another quick tip. Let's say, for example, you want to be able to turn your camera on really quick and actually take a photo. If you put your finger on this button right here, and this is one of your volume buttons, so this is the up and this is your down, and you press it twice, not only will it turn on the camera, but it will take the picture. So watch this. 2 times, and it already took the picture. You'll notice here that the picture was taken. So just by double-clicking this button, you can initiate not just the camera, but take the photo. So now let me show you how you can see the battery percentage on your phone. So what you're going to do is going to go to settings, you're going to go into general, you're going to scroll down to actual battery, and in the battery setting you'll notice that you'll be able to choose battery percentage on status bar, and that's going to give you your battery percent, as you can see there. That's it. Now this next tip really has to do about the settings area. So we're going to go into the settings area, and right now, as we've been going through all the tips, we've been going into the settings area, and you notice that things are organized into specific categories. Even though it's not really evident in this display here, it's really all about tabs. What you can do is go into the 3 buttons here and then choose list view, and what that's going to do is going to change everything from being tabs, and you notice how all the tabs disappeared, to something that you can scroll through. Some people like this approach, some people like scrolling down and don't like shifting. The neat thing about this approach is that you can see everything in almost 2 areas at the same time by scrolling down, or once again you can just go back to the tab view. Now, while many of us may like the actual smart bulletin area, you may be somebody who doesn't really care for it. So let me show you how you can actually remove it. What you're going to do is you're going to pinch in, and when you pinch in, you get to see all of your pages. Now what you can do here is you could actually organize and determine which one is your home page just by tapping on the actual home icon like you did there, and then that changes your home location. But what you can also do is you can press and hold on any of these pages and then drag it to the top, and when you drag it to the top, it's going to delete or remove that smart area that we have, the smart bulletin area, and you won't see it anymore. Now the next step I'm going to show you is how to use something called QSlide. I'm going to turn that off just so you can see. When I tap the QSlide, you're going to see these applications that appear here, and these are applications that are going to have they're going to show up like in a pop-up. So if I choose the phone, for example, you'll notice that the phone popped up. If I go back to this QSlide area and I choose, let's say, messaging, for example, I'm going to have a messaging window. And the point here is that I can have multiple windows running at the same time. Phone call, text messaging, it would be any application that appears in this QSlide area. Now you do have the ability to do some editing. So if I were to choose editing, for example, you'll be able to see, and we'll close this out, these two apps. You'll be able to see the apps that are available in the QSlide. Right now there are not that many apps there, but still I'm sure this list is going to grow. The point here is that you can reorganize and you can really support the ones that you find most important to you so that you don't have so many icons that you can launch from. So now the next function I'd like to show you is how to use dual windows. We're going to choose the multitasking button, and what we're going to do is choose dual window. And a dual window is going to allow you to have two applications open at the same time. Unlike the QSlide where there are small windows, this is really going to take advantage of the full screen and split the screen in half. So if I were to say, for example, choose Chrome, I could have Chrome on the top, and then I could also choose YouTube on the bottom. And now you'll notice that I have two programs running simultaneously, so I could be searching for something and also watching something on YouTube at the same time. If you have done this function before, what you could do is when you go into dual windows, it kind of remembers what's going on. So you notice how it has this recent. If I tap on it, it's going to take that dual window combination and then just restore it quickly so you don't have to set it up again. Now another neat thing about dual windows is that if any time you want to modify your dual window setting, you just tap on this button and it appears in any active window. When I tap on it, it gives me the ability to replace any of the programs that are currently in use. So what I could do is I can say I want to replace YouTube with my messaging app, and now it's been replaced. I could go back to it by going here, and I can say I wanted to go back to YouTube, and it will replace it. If I am in this active window and I tap it, it's going to replace the content of this window with whatever application I choose, and you'll notice because of the directional arrows. So again, just another tip on how you can use this program, the multi-window function. The one thing I'll also highlight is you notice here there are not a lot of applications that support multi-windowing. It is becoming more and more popular, and this list I'm sure is going to change as the programs continue to support it. So now this next tip is for those of you who have smaller hands and find it difficult to actually type on the keyboard, especially if you're going to do one-handed typing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into settings, we're going to go into general, we're going to choose language and input. We're then going to look at the settings for the G4 keyboard, and then we're going to look at keyboard height and layout. There's a couple things that we're going to do. We're going to choose one-handed operation, and what one-handed operation is going to do is, for those of you who like, let's say, using your phone like this, where you hold the phone and then you're just swiping around or typing around, instead of holding the phone with two hands and typing, this is going to give you the ability to have the keyboard really, let me just go ahead and get started. Yes, I'm in. It's really going to give you the ability to actually type, and you'll notice how my keyboard is now on one side. So if I was holding the phone right here, it's a lot easier for me to navigate, and if I am a lefty, I could do it this way as well. So this is really giving me the ability to adjust the keyboard to really suit my specific usage when it comes to keyboards. So let's say you're having some problems as you're typing, you're basically misspelling a lot of words, or you're just missing keys. This tip is going to show you how you can actually modify the keyboard so that you can make it larger. So what we're going to do is bring it down so that you can go into settings, general, language and input. We're going to go into the LG keyboard. We're going to choose keyboard height and layout, and then we're going to choose keyboard height. What you can do here is you can maximize, this is how high you can go, you can make the keyboard larger. Notice how the keys themselves all got much larger, which is going to make it easier for you to type if you're having problems typing. If the keys are too large, you can make it smaller. Or what you could do is just go somewhere in between. The point here is that you can modify it. Once you modify it, you type around, and then what you could do is you can reset it at any point to go back to what the standard keyboard was. Now the G4 is packed with a significant number of automation tools, things that just happen automatically to make really life with the G4 much better. Let me show you one of the things that you can do. We're going to go into the menu again, into the settings area, and then we're going to choose Smart Settings, and this is under the General Functions. Smart Settings, choose OK, and notice all of the automation that you can have. You have home automation functions, away automation functions, and accessory functions. We're just going to go over a couple of these so you can see how it works. You can actually tell the phone that when you're at home that you could have a specific sound profile. Or for example, when you're at home, you can either turn on or turn off Bluetooth. When you're at home, you can turn on or off Wi-Fi. All these things are things that you would do automatically. When you leave your home, you could say, I want you to disable certain functions. So for example, let's say you're at home and you want to make sure that you're using your home Wi-Fi so that you're not using your data plan. You can say, when at home, I want my Wi-Fi on. When you leave your house, because you're not using Wi-Fi and you don't want it to use up any kind of battery, you can say, when I'm away from my home, I want the Wi-Fi to be off. So these are all different type of automation tools that you can set up. Now we're going to choose one of them just to take a look at it. So what you'll have to do is define what your home is. So it's obviously going to be using your GPS. It's going to be using the location technology. So what you have to do is choose and create your home location so that it understands when it should enable these functions and when it should turn them off. But this is a great way how you can automate a lot of the common things that we all do manually, but have it all done automatically. Now the next function I'm going to show you is how do you use Google Now. If you see this dot right here, if you press and hold on this dot and drag upwards, you're going to go into Google Now. Now I opt into Google Now all the time in any phone that I have. And Google Now is not only used to search and find things on the internet, but it is going to adapt itself to your usage patterns. So for example, once you go to work a couple times in the morning, the next time you wake up, Google Now will know where you work, and it will also understand the path that you take to get to your office or to your place of employment, and it will tell you how long it's going to take and if there's any traffic, and it will also recommend an alternate route. Google Now will give you weather. Google Now will track for you your either your favorite sports team when they're playing. It will also recognize restaurants that you've gone to and tell you if you're in the neighborhood, if you want to set a reservation for that restaurant. There's a lot of automation in Google Now. So I would advise you to check it out, and that's how easy it is to access it. Now, the next feature or function I want to reintroduce you to is the OK Google type functionality that's available on the G4. It's come a long way, it's improved a lot, and you see a lot of commercials about Siri. And I just wanted to show you how intelligent and how functional the Google functionality is. Let's see how it works. Will I need an umbrella tomorrow?
Rain is not expected tomorrow in Althai. The forecast is 28 degrees and cloudy.
How about Tuesday?
Yes, the forecast for Tuesday in Althai is 26 degrees with a thunderstorm.
So the one thing I just wanted to highlight there is you notice I asked the phone, would I need an umbrella? The system came back and told me no because of the weather. I then asked it, how about the next day on Tuesday? And the system knew my first question, so I didn't have to ask the same question again, and then it was able to tell me what was going to be happening on Tuesday. This is just some of the functionality that's available. One of the things that I find that's pretty convenient. I would encourage you to experiment and try out the Now Google functionality. It's improved so much. So just check it out, play with it, and I'm sure you're going to find some very useful use cases where you'll take advantage of this functionality. So here's another neat feature, especially if you find yourself, let's say like many of us do if you have any kids, giving your phone to your child when they're in the stroller or in the shopping cart, or they're watching a movie on your phone and they don't have their own phone because they're too young. You could actually create unique profiles for multiple people on the same phone. And you notice that up here you have that little person icon. If you tap it, what you can do is actually create multiple users, and each user could have their own experience. If we go into settings, here what you see is you can actually see who the owner of this phone is, and if I go to add a user, right? Notice how it says, adding users to share this phone with other people. Each user can have their own apps, content, and their own space. And all users will be able to change settings and things that are important to them as they're using the phone. So this is a neat feature, especially if you find yourself sharing the phone with more than one person. Now, another thing that you can actually customize is the LEDs for your phone. When you're charging, the LED will light up. When you're getting a phone call, the LED will come up. So what I'm going to show you how to do is how can you modify those LEDs. So we're going to go into settings again. And we're going to look for the sound area, sound and notifications. So as you go down, we'll go ahead and look for the actual LED. And one of the things I just wanted to highlight before we go in there, you'll notice that some of the items on the menus are dual function. By tapping on this side, you'll turn things on and off, and by tapping on this side, you actually go into the actual feature itself. So here what you can do is you can enable or disable certain things. So let's say you're charging your phone at night and you don't want to see that LED when it's charging because you need absolute darkness, you can uncheck it. If you don't want to see an incoming call LED, you can uncheck it as well. So once again, you could modify any of these items here to display or not display your LED. Now, if you want to be able to see, what each LED is going to look like, all you got to do is uncheck it and recheck it, and you'll see the color of the LED. Obviously, the colors are here, but this is something just if you wanted to check out and see what it will do and how annoying it may or may not be, is by just selecting that little checkbox. Now, this is another tip that I actually use often, and most of us at night or during certain times of the day, you may turn off your ringer on your phone because you just don't want to be interrupted, or you need to sleep. And what ends up happening is you may forget to turn on your ringer, and you start missing calls. So what I'm going to show you is how you can actually set up the phone so to give you some quiet times. And this is going to be under the sounds and notification area, and it's really called interruptions. So when you go into interruptions, what you could do is actually establish downtime. And what you're doing here is you're basically saying on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, from this specific time to this specific time, I don't want to get any kind of notifications. Now, what you can do is you can set up priority. So you can set up contacts that are priorities. So for example, if you're on call, you can have the dispatch area or that individual that could be calling you override those settings. But anyone else who's not on the priority list would not be able to make your phone ring or disturb you when you're in an area or during that non-interruption time or the downtime, as you see it right there. So yeah, you have downtime. So this is a really neat way where you can actually configure that quiet time, and it's going to automatically set itself back to the normal settings once that downtime is complete.
All right, with this next tip, I'm just going to show you how you can actually set up the G4 to do some, I would say, system maintenance for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into settings, and then I'm going to scroll down to an area that's under phone management that's called smart cleaning. And what smart cleaning is going to do is it's going to look at your phone and then determine if there are any items that are taking unnecessary space that you can actually clean. Now, this is great because your phone, with time, as you download stuff, install stuff, there may be some junk files that can be removed. And you could actually set up the periods in which you want this process to take place and when it should notify you. So literally what we're doing here is just looking at, what is it that I have on my phone that can actually be eliminated or cleaned. So here it's telling me that I have some cache, some clip tray, some raw camera files if there's any. And when I choose clean, it's going to say yes, and it's going to remove that. And notice how the amount of memory that I have available for cleaning is now completely wiped out. So smart cleaning is a great way for you to keep your phone running in the optimal speed and also getting all that junk or the junk files that are left on your phone removed.
So this concludes our first pass at tips and tricks for the G4. I want to thank LG for making this phone available to us prior to release, and want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Verivox.de, da sparen Sie mit Sicherheit.
Auf den
ersten Blick hat sich beim LG G4 hier links im Bild nicht so wahnsinnig viel getan im Vergleich zum Vorgänger, dem G3 hier rechts. Man sieht das ja auch schon, die Maße sind fast identisch. Das ist ein Millimeterchen breiter, knapp 3 Millimeter größer, Gewicht 155 Gramm identisch und vor allen Dingen das Display scheint ja auch identisch groß zu sein. Das ist es auch, knapp 5,5 Zoll. Auch wieder die gleiche Auflösung, 1440 x 2560 Pixel. Dadurch diese enorm hohe Pixeldichte von 538 ppi, also richtig knackscharf. Aber wenn man genauer hinsieht, erkennt man schon ein paar Unterschiede. Erstens ist ein komplett neues Panel, deswegen ist es auch ein bisschen heller. Gemessen 410 Candela statt 385 Candela pro Quadratmeter. Man erkennt das beispielsweise auch hier schon an diesen Gelbtönen. Das ist einfach ein bisschen knackiger, ein bisschen heller und vor allen Dingen es ist eine neue Panel-Technologie, Quantum Display nennt LG das hochtrabend, soll einfach höhere Kontraste, mehr Helligkeit, wie gesagt, und vor allen Dingen auch 20% mehr Farben darstellen können. Und wer hier mal genau hinsieht, ich kann ja gerne auch mal näher drauf gehen, damit man das genauer sieht, diese hier in der Mitte, diese zentrale Blume. Ich finde, man sieht das wirklich ganz klar hier drüben beim G4. Das ist einfach ein bisschen bunter, ein bisschen lebhafter, die Farben, ganz einfach durch diese höhere Intensität, die ich einfach darstellen kann mit mehr Farben oder beispielsweise auch hier, was die Gesichter betrifft. Das ist einfach ein bisschen wärmer hier drüben und finde ich persönlich angenehmer. Oder wenn man auch mal dieses Gelb hier miteinander vergleicht, hier, da am Rand sieht man es einigermaßen so, jetzt schiebe ich das mal ein bisschen höher hier, da sieht das beim G3, das ist jetzt nicht despektierlich gemeint, einfach ein bisschen schmutziger aus und hier ein bisschen frischer, ein bisschen knackiger, gefällt mir insgesamt einfach besser die Darstellung hier. Aber man sieht auch, ich kann ja auch noch mal ein paar andere Bilder hier so zeigen, das sind natürlich dann marginale Unterschiede, die man jetzt auch nur im direkten Vergleich erkennen mag, wenn man genau hinsieht. Das ist jetzt nichts, weswegen man jetzt unbedingt wechseln müsste vom G3 aufs G4 beispielsweise. Also das alleine wäre es jetzt nicht, aber es hat sich ja auch deutlich mehr getan. Zum einen, ja, vom Design ist ja auch durchaus entscheidend. Hier haben wir wieder diese gebogene Rückseite. Ich kann das ja hier so ein bisschen reinhalten, dass man das erkennen kann. Und statt dieses Metallic-Looks rein ist es jetzt so ein Metallic-Look mit Waben und das fühlt man auch. Also das sind richtige leichte Erhebungen hier. Ich hoffe, man kann das im Video auch einigermaßen erkennen von der Beleuchtung her. Das sieht einfach noch ein bisschen schicker aus, wie ich finde. Und vor allen Dingen, das ist ja der Clou, man kann hier diese Rückseite abnehmen und es gibt auch Varianten mit Echtleder-Rückseite in verschiedenen Farben. Das ist natürlich dann super edel. Es gibt außerdem auch Cover hier, wo ich den Akku hier drahtlos betanken kann, also einfach auf so eine Qi-Ladestation legen. Vor allen Dingen aber wichtig finde ich natürlich auch weiterhin der Akku austauschbar. In heutigen Zeiten ja leider Gottes keine Selbstverständlichkeit. Genauso wenig wie Speichererweiterungsslot, der auch gleich bis 2 Terabyte unterstützt wird. Solche SD-Karten oder Micro-SD-Karten, zumindest gibt es ja heutzutage noch gar nicht. Da sind wir bei 128 Gigabyte nur momentan. Aber man ist halt gerüstet für die Zukunft. Außerdem neuer Prozessor, Snapdragon 808, nicht der 810er. Hier steckt ja noch der 801er drin. Und mit diesem 810er, ja, der soll ja angeblich überhitzen, aber LG hat den auch beispielsweise im Flex 2 verbaut, den 810er. Der wurde zwar ordentlich warm, aber von Überhitzen kann man da auch nicht sprechen. Auch HTC One M9 dasselbe, aber die haben die Akkuzeit deutlich reduziert. Beim Flex 2 beispielsweise 14% unter Durchschnitt, beim M9 19% unter Durchschnitt. Ja, und hier ist natürlich jetzt die Preisfrage, wie schlägt sich das G4 mit dem 808-Prozessor. Leistungstechnisch zumindest überraschend gut, auch wenn es nur 6 Kerne sind, von denen nur 2 wirklich Hochleistungskerne sind. 4 sind eher so Energiesparkerne, Taktung 1,8 GHz. Zum Vergleich nochmal hier beim G3, 4 Kerne mit 2,5 GHz, aber 2 GB Arbeitsspeicher, 3 GB Arbeitsspeicher und auch ein höherwertiges, neueres Grafikmodul, Adreno 418 statt 330. Das summiert sich ganz einfach. Und wie gesagt, überraschend gut in der Gesamtwertung aus 12 Benchmarks mit mehr als 50 erfassten Einzelwerten schneidet das G4 33% über Durchschnitt ab. Zum Vergleich, das G3 hier drüben liegt aktuell bei 16% über dem Durchschnitt. Also eine durchaus signifikante Leistungssteigerung, muss man sagen. So, und jetzt Preisfrage, Akkulaufzeit. Also, da machen wir immer den Test, Videowiedergabe bei 200 Candela pro Quadratmeter, also eher düsterem Display, Flugmodus. Und da kam der Kandidat des G4 hier auf 459 Minuten, der Vorgänger auf 402. Der liegt damit 16% unter Durchschnitt und hier das G4 4% unter Durchschnitt. Da kann man, glaube ich, mit leben. Also durchaus auch eine Steigerung bei der Akkuleistung trotz 3000 Milliampere-Stunden in beiden. Insgesamt würde ich sagen, kann man also durchaus mit dieser Entscheidung, mit diesem Snapdragon 808 zufrieden sein. Ein sehr schönes Paket, kann man nicht meckern. Außerdem gab es hier noch 2 verschiedene Versionen mit 16 und 32 GB internem Speicher. Hier gibt es jetzt gleich nur 32 GB. Netto übrigens, das ist ja immer so der entscheidende Wert, 20,7 GB bleiben davon frei verfügbar, wenn man mal alle vorinstallierten Apps und Betriebssysteme und was nicht alles aktualisiert hat. Das ist der Wert, mit dem man kalkulieren muss, 20,7 GB. Auch das ist sehr, sehr ordentlich, zumal man hat es ja gesehen, die Speicherkarte noch gibt. Hauptaugenmerk lag aber ganz eindeutig auf der Kamera, weil da hat man, obwohl die hier schon sehr gut war, noch einiges rausgeholt. Zum einen, man hat halt natürlich wieder diesen superschnellen Lasersensor drin, der eben halt die Entfernungsmessung für den Autofokus erledigt. Außerdem ist jetzt ein Farbspektrumsensor mit dabei. Wir hatten ja auch schon beim Vorgänger hier diesen zweifarbigen Blitz. Nun analysiert der neue Sensor hier drin, dieser Farbspektrumsensor, analysiert nicht nur die Umgebungsbeleuchtung, Farbtemperatur, sondern auch erkennt, was ist das Motiv und kann auch dort die Farbe analysieren und dementsprechend dann hier die Mischung dieser 2 LEDs angeblich optimal dann ausrechnen, um noch bessere Ergebnisse zu liefern. Ich persönlich finde ja aber den neuen optischen Bildstabilisator sehr viel interessanter. Der soll jetzt insofern verbessert worden sein, dass der einfach nicht nur schneller und präziser diese leichten Wackler ausgleicht, sondern man hat da auch konkrete Angaben gemacht. Also hier beim Vorgänger kann der bis zu etwa 1 Grad Neigung ausgleichen durch diese optische Bewegung dieses gesamten Systems. Hier sind es jetzt 2 Grad, also kurzum, das G4 kann doppelt so intensive Verwackler kompensieren. Und nicht zuletzt, er hat ein neues Objektiv jetzt hier mit da drin, das eine Lichtstärke von f1,8 hat. Kleinerer Wert ist besser, zum Vergleich, hier sind es f1,9. Da mag man jetzt denken, so als Laie, naja, f1,9, 1,8, das ist ein marginaler Unterschied. Es macht aber 11% mehr Licht laut Hersteller ein, die faktisch auf den Sensor mehr fallen. Sprich, ich habe entweder kürzere Verschlusszeiten oder eben halt höhere Blendwerte, was dann bei schlechten Lichtverhältnissen der ganzen Geschichte zugutekommen soll. Das müssen wir natürlich dann im abschließenden finalen Test uns mal genauer anschauen. Ansonsten von der Auflösung her sind es jetzt 16 statt 13 Megapixel. Videos konnte ja auch schon der Vorgänger in 4K aufnehmen. Also wirklich Spitzenwerte, was die Kamera betrifft, durch die Bank weg. Das lässt auf jeden Fall schon mal auf sehr viel hoffen. Und auf der Vorderseite gibt es außerdem noch Good News. Hier waren es nämlich Full-HD-Fotos und Videos in Full-HD. Hier sind es jetzt Videos weiterhin in Full-HD, aber Fotos mit 8 Megapixel auf der Vorderseite. Auch das ist für heutige Verhältnisse sehr, sehr ordentlich. Das sieht man selten. Ansonsten sollte man vielleicht noch wissen, es ist natürlich die aktuellste Version des Betriebssystems drauf, Android 5.1. Wo haben wir Softwareinformationen? Hier, da oben steht's. Hier beim G3 ist man ja inzwischen dank Update auf 5.0. Das ist jetzt nicht so der Wahnsinnsunterschied, aber der Preis. Ja gut, es ist für diese Variante hier mit diesem Kunststoffdeckel 649 €. Beim Vorgänger waren es 549, also 100 € Aufpreis. Und wenn ich die Ledervariante haben möchte, 699 €, unverbindliche Preisempfehlung, sogar 150 € mehr. Zumal, auch das muss man natürlich sagen, die Straßenpreise beim G3 derzeit bei 360 € liegen, also deutlich schon gesunken sind im letzten Jahr. Hier starten wir jetzt erstmal mit den unverbindlichen Preisempfehlungen. Vielleicht kann man mal 10 € oder 20 € zu Beginn weniger irgendwo was erwischen, aber das ist natürlich faktisch gesehen schon ein erheblicher Unterschied. Da muss man jetzt gut überlegen, ist einem die gesteigerte Prozessorleistung und vor allen Dingen, was hier die Kamera betrifft, ist einem dieser Aufpreis wert oder beispielsweise mit den Selfies. Das ist natürlich eine harte Entscheidung, völlig klar. Da werden wir, wie gesagt, auch nochmal im Test näher drauf eingehen, auf die Qualitäten des Ganzen hier. Aber so auf den ersten Blick muss ich sagen, eine deutliche Steigerung, aber auch eine deutliche Preissteigerung. Das muss dann jeder für sich selbst entscheiden. So, und das soll es jetzt auch mal gewesen sein als erster Eindruck mit den ersten Testergebnissen vom LG G4. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Bis bald.
Verivox.de. Da sparen Sie mit Sicherheit.
Hi guys, EBP Man here with Tablets for Me, and today we're going to do a impression review of the LG G4. So I was very fortunate to be allowed to have early access to the LG G4 through LG's influencer program, and I've been using the phone now for a week as my primary phone, and I wanted to share with you what my experience has been and what I thought of the phone. So there's been a couple changes on the LG G4 for you to be aware of. First of all, what you'll notice is that the actual phone does have a curve to it, and it's very similar to what you're seeing from LG. They have other phones that have that curve, and it's really to make the phone more form-fitting as it rests against your face. I also have reviewed on the channel other phones that don't have that curvature, and I can say that it's something that's very easy to get used to, and it's something that is comfortable as if you are one of those people that really rest your phone against your face as you make phone calls. The back of the actual phone comes in a couple styles. I actually have the plastic, or also some people call it the ceramic back. It does come with a leather back. While the leather back is really cool, one of the things that I'm a very strong proponent of is having a screen protector and a case on my phones. So the bag being leather or not, I'm going to cover it up. So it's up to you if you want the leather back and you're really not going to have a case. But since I put my phones in cases, having a leather back isn't really that important to me. LG has really kept the style here of the actual G3 when it comes to the button controls, the same with the G4. So you have your volume rocker here, and then you have your camera as well as your flash. Now, one major change or upgrade to the G4 line is the camera, and that's why I wanted to take a close-up of that. The camera has improved significantly. We're going from a 13 megapixel camera to now a 16 megapixel rear-facing camera. The front of the phone also, if we flip this over, it does have a front-facing camera, and that front-facing camera has also been increased. With the G3, you were looking at a 2.1 megapixel camera, and now what we have here is a 8 megapixel front camera. So really, that's going to transform and make those selfies that you take much better, as well as you're doing any kind of video chat, it's going to improve that significantly. The other area where there's been some tremendous improvements, and I can tell you can really feel it when you're using the phone, is around the processor. This phone is fast. The previous version, while it was fast, it had a quad-core processor, and this has a hexa-core processor. So much faster, so you're going to be able to move from screen to screen much faster than you have in the past. So general navigation, like if we go to so you can see some of the apps, it's just snappy. Things just move. There's no lag. It just happens. So really a nice fluid movement from screen to screen. And another area that I'll focus on is the memory. Some of the G4s that are available in the market did not come with more than 2 gig. In some markets you could probably get a 3 gig. But standard onboard memory for processing, the G4 comes with 3 gig, which is great. There's no choice between the memory. So there was a choice previously for either a 16 or 32 gig with the G3. Now with the actual G4, you have 32 gig standard, and then you have a micro SD slot, which is great. It's something that you lost if you were a Samsung user, and this micro SD card slot could support up to 2 terabytes. Now, realizing that the largest SD card right now is like 128, 2 terabytes gives you enough space to grow. Now, one of the things that remained the same on the G3 as it was upgraded to the G4 is the battery. Both phones have a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, but I feel that both the operating system, the software, and this implementation, the feeling to me has been that I've had better life and better performance, despite the fact them both having a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. Just like the G3, the G4 also has a speaker in the same area, has it right here in the back. So that provides some consistency, especially if you're upgrading from a G3. Now, from a connectivity perspective, there have been some changes. First of all, this phone does support NFC, which is what you see where most folks like tapping the phone to share pictures, or for mobile payments where you can just tap your phone and use it to pay or to purchase things. But also the changes have also taken place in the, I would say, the wireless side. And I've really noticed that as I was using the phone on my home network. You're seeing that now the supported standards support A, B, G, N, and AC, which is one of the more newer standards available today on the market. So there's an improvement in that side as well. Now, if we compare the G3 to the G4, we talked about the actual curvature, and I just wanted to show you side by side what the two phones look like. So here I have my G3, here I have my G4. From a thickness perspective, there are changes, but it's not really that perceptible. So as you start looking at them side by side, it's really kind of hard to determine if there's any change there. Now, one thing that is very perceptible, or the thing that you can notice, is that the actual G4 is a little bit taller, just a slightly taller than the G3, and if you look at it this way, you'll notice that they're pretty much the same when it comes to the micro USB charging port. And if I were to flip this over like this would make it easier to see. You have your micro USB charging in the same place, pinhole mic, headphone jack. If you go here, you'll notice that you have again, no buttons or anything on the sides there. Top, you have your pinhole mic, and then you have your IR blaster, so you can use your phone as a remote. And on the sides, there's really nothing else that has changed. So all in all, the big difference you're going to find is the processor itself, how fast it is. You're going to find that the camera shoots phenomenal pictures. And the other thing to really highlight is the screen. So let's take a look at the screen. Now, taking a look at the screen, if you were to just look at the specs themselves, both screens are still measuring 5.5 inches, which is great for a phone that's this size. From a resolution perspective, for those of you that are really interested in the resolution, you're looking at 2,560 by 1,440, and they're pretty comparable. It's the same. Now, even though the screen resolution and the size are the same, don't be fooled, because for me, I believe that there is a major improvement going on with the actual G4. From a pixel perspective, the G3 was 534 pixels, and then for the G4, the pixel count went up slightly, up to 538. But really, you have to see the screens to be able to see the difference. So let's go ahead and turn both of these on. And right outside, you'll notice that, and this is something that we saw with the G3, was the fact that the actual screen looked washed sometimes. The colors weren't as vibrant. They didn't really pop. So you can see these are the exact same graphics. This is actually the wallpaper from the G4 on the G3. And what you see is the actual screen itself. If we look at the actual resolution of the screen, it's just the colors are washed. So if we go back here, let me try to keep these both on at the same time, you'll notice how red and sharp the colors are. Now, both of these phones are at full brightness. Both of these phones are set up where I don't have the auto dimming set up outside of the fact that the phones continue to turn off. But really, the screen resolution and the quality, there's a perceptible change, even though the actual specs haven't. So this is a next generation screen for sure. And the other area for improvement with the G4 has been the actual camera. So the camera application is very fast. Let me get out of it so you can see how fast it is. When you select it, it's just there, which is great because when you're taking pictures, you really want a camera that's going to be ready for that moment. So it is fast, very fast. It also supports, and if we were just to show the camera, just some of the features there for the camera. Excuse my hand in the background. You have a couple modes here. So you have your standard auto mode is for the person who just wants to be able to do a point and shoot. You have your
panorama view, so if you want to get those wide views, and then you have the dual mode, which allows you to be in the picture if you're the person like me who's always taking pictures, but you're never in the picture. So there's a lot of different functions and different shapes that you can see there. Another area that is available is the feature HDR. So you can actually use the HDR feature. I have it on. I tend to prefer seeing it. It makes just things pop out a little bit more. And then from a resolution perspective, you'll notice that you have various settings that you can control to determine, what's the highest resolution you want for your pictures. You also then have slow-mo for video recording. So, you have Ultra HD, Fine HD, and HD. So the quality of the camera, what you're going to see is going to be outstanding. Now, one thing that has changed, and you're starting to see this a lot in the cameras, is you're starting to see the ability to have manual control. And these are features that you would see in standard phone cameras, right? The DSLRs, where you can actually do all the finicking and adjusting either with the ISO, the aperture. There's all these things that you can modify with the brightness. So this is really for someone who is more of a professional camera user, or even those, if you're a consumer that just likes to, tweak things and look at things a little bit differently, you could play with this as well. Let me show you a couple pictures so that you can see what I'm talking about. So this photo is just illustrating just the overall quality that you can get with the actual camera. So you can see here a lot of detail as far as this coffee cup, and if I move over, there's some special effects that you can get as well. So what you're seeing here is I would say a blurred background, but the coffee cup is within focus. Again, high quality look and feel to the actual picture that you're taking. Here's some other pictures that I took with the G4, so you can see this is in a natural wooded area, so you can see kind of some of the greens and how things pop out. A wooded path that I have some photos of. And then this is another nice, again, nothing special, no special software, but you can see how I have these flowers in focus, but then there's this nice blur effect that's going on. So you can see these are in focus, and then this one is blurred as well as the background that you see there. Here's another nice photo that really pops. Again, this is at full resolution. You can see how smooth those transitions are. So if you're really looking for something and you really like the LG line and you're looking for an improvement on your camera, it's definitely the way to go. So the last thing I want to talk about is the actual phone. We've been talking about the camera, we've been talking about specs, but we haven't spent any time talking about the phone. So how good is it as a phone? I have to say it's fantastic. So LG has really done a nice job overall balancing performance, call quality, web navigation. It's been great, the experience that I've had over the last week. And really, if you're considering an upgrade to your G3, this is a worthy adversary. It's a good phone. It's a good upgrade. If you're coming from, let's say, the Samsung line, and you're really mixed about the fact that you don't have an SD card a micro SD card for expansion, this is a good phone to consider because it does support that. So all in all, I really like this phone. If you have any comments or questions about the phone, I'll leave it on the YouTube channel. I do have a series of tips and tricks on how to use the phone if you're new to LG or if you just want a refresher. And also I have several accessories that are coming in that are for the LG G4. So just subscribe to the channel and check that out. So want to thank LG for making this product available to us early before the US release. And I also want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments or questions, once again, leave it on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again.